You got it. Welcome to Hope's Kickoff, a political education show comparing American football to U.S. politics. We are here live from GCDN Stadium Monday for our Sunday show at 7:30 p.m. on January 20th, 2025 for our January 19th, 2025 show. For 30 minutes, the first show on the GCD network, integrated on YouTube Live every Sunday at 7:30 with on-demand recordings available around the clock on YouTube. Let me introduce myself. I am your host, Hope. Yours truly, Alicia L'Esperance, or by French last name translation, The Hope. I come to you with a long history of political influences and work history. The contents here fall under criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. Opportunities to contribute to and finance the political education are available at the end of the broadcast. And as a political break, I am now a U.S. presidential candidate poised to be the next people's president. Learn more on my webpage, thehopeforpresident.us. Content is authorized by and marginal reduced fees from GCDN paid by myself, the candidate or candidate committee, Alicia L'Esperance, the Hope for President. Opportunities to contribute to and finance the political campaign are also available at the end of the broadcast. Information for each show is compiled from press releases as reported by NFL.com, NBC, Action Network, ESPN, Justice.gov, Associated Press, Wall Street Journal, ABC, CNN, CBS, NPR, U.S. News, New York Times, WhiteHouse.gov, HRC, Pew Research, Strateology, Bloomerang, Reuters, Futurism, History.com, the Constitution, the National Archives, U.S. Bank, Fox Sports, and even Swish. Here in the U.S., you can follow along with me in your Google search. TikTok goes the clock off by the U.S. Supreme Court and on by the head coach over the headsets. But be careful, as the clock could take out power to the stadium like my last two computers for the show. Turn on your Sunday football or news report and keep Hope's Kickoff in the background to compare prior week primetime Sunday football with primetime U.S. politics. Teams are named by city and players by last name or party. Remember, the U.S., or U&S, is now referred to as the collective state of us. 30 minutes is broken down by topic. First, the anthem, introductions to the game and players, four quarters, halftime, and wrap-up celebrations. As we know, prime time is at times all of Sunday football and politics, or at times all focus is on a single game. National anthem. Then first, half is January 20 holiday, Martin Luther King Day, and playoffs. Halftime. Third, home and away, tariffs and turf. Fourth, peace and funding. And now that all the players are on the field, let's play ball. The national anthem and the announcers requested order as more players previously pardoned for taking a knee continued to be pardoned to continue to play. On January 1st, on the first half of the half, January 20th holiday, the Martin Luther King Day and playoffs. Recall, 14 men in Canton, Ohio and Hayes Auto Showroom in September 17th, 1920 created a National Football League to grow the sport beyond the Midwest. Offset salary bidding and add structure like the National Baseball Association. Rewind to the intelligent founders, Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, Livingston, and Sherman in Congress on July 4th, 1776, an abbreviated version, the unanimous declaration of the now 13 states of America, or 14 teams, appealing to the supreme judge of the world, do in the name and by the authority of the good people, solemnly publish and declare that these united teams are of right and ought be free and independent teams of the NFL. They have the power to levy war, or game war, conclude sportsmanship, peace, contract alliances, establish profitable business, and do all other acts and things which independent state teams might do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of higher power, we mutually pledged to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. A little of Martin Luther King from the locker room of today. And from Emmitt Smith, our football champion, vision gets the dream started. Dreaming employs your God-given imagination to reinforce the vision. Both are part of something I believe is absolutely necessary to build the life of a character who is constantly at the top of whatever game he or she is in. And then in remembering the NFL locker room, and at 50 years in his dream speech, the NFL locker room is his dream personified, RT. He had a dream so we could live ours freely. So excerpts from Martin Luther King. And today we had over the weekend, we had the People's March around the stadium, like the past Women's March and the January 6th of other teams. Excerpts from the Martin Luther King Day and Martin Luther King's speech. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for our freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Fast forward, but 100 years later, the colored American is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the colored American is still sadly crippled by the manacle of segregation and the chains of discrimination. Fast forward, in a sense, we have come to our nation's capital, or the head of NFL, to cash a check. When the architects of our great republic or NFL wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, the formation of the NFL, and the rule book and code of conduct, they were signing a promissory note to every American and every player was their fall to air. The note was a promise that all men and players, yes, black or brown men players, as well as white men players, Asian, women, those of other abilities, those from the great land of India, Hispanic, those from Russia, those of transgender, would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, game day, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America, the NFL, has defaulted. America, the NFL, has given its colored people a bad check, a check that has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the bank of injustice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us demand the riches of freedom and security of justice of our Super Bowl. Now is the time to make real the promise of democracy. Now is the time to lift our nation and our teams from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality to all of higher power's children. There will be neither the rest nor tranquility in America until the colored citizen or teammate is granted his citizenship rights. We cannot be satisfied as long as the colored person's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto, is not guaranteed from a smaller ghetto or stadium to a larger one. As a person in Mississippi could not vote, a colored person or player on that team did not make the playoffs in New York, believes he has nothing for which to vote for, until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like mighty steam. I am not unmindful that some of you have come out here of your trials and tribulations. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by storms of persecutions and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering, continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Cincinnati, 9-8. Too late to build up. Play needed for Chase and Higgins. Dallas, go back to Dallas, 7-10, where the coaches are needed. Go back to Miami, 8-9 for injuries and illnesses. Go back to Seattle, 10-7, almost there. Go back to Atlanta, 8-9 for inconsistency. Go back to Arizona, 8-9 for offense needed, but 2 times better than last year. Go back to San Francisco, 6-11. Purdy needs some money. Go back to Carolina, 5-12. Young on track and defense needed. Go back to Indianapolis, 8-9. needing coaches and quarterback growth. Go back to Chicago, 5 to 12, needing coaches. Go back to New England, 4 to 13, bring in the money. Go back to Jacksonville, where coaches and general managers are needed. Go back to New York, where 5 to 12, where coaches and general managers are needed. Go back to Vegas, 4 to 13, where coaches and quarterbacks are needed. Go back to Tennessee, 3 to 14. Bring it together. Go back to New Orleans, 5 to 12, where coaches, aging team, and money is needed. Go back to New York, 3 to 14, in need of a quarterback. Go back to Cleveland, 3 to 14, for injury and money and quarterbacks. Go back to the slums and the ghettos of our modern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you, my friends, we have the difficulties of today and tomorrow. I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, in the NFL dream, in every player's dream. I have a dream that one day this nation team will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, all players, all people are created equal. I have a dream that one day in the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners, as a great granddaughter of a former slave owner, who will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood and play the same game day. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, the Ole Miss, a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice and opportunity from college to NFL. I have a dream that my children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream today that one day every valley shall be engulfed, every hill shall be exalted, every mountain shall be made low, and the rough places on the fields will be made plains, and crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I will go back to the NFL, to the South, with this faith that we will be able to hew out the mountains of despair a stone of hope for the future. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood of teams. With this faith, we'll be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to climb up our freedom together, knowing that we'll be free one day. This will be the day when all of our higher powers' children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the hilltops of every football team. And at halftime, there were red volcanoes, silence on the field, as fires burned in the west, homes and stadiums lost, and uninsured value along with them. And volcanoes erupt for a brief and uncertain duration to the west of the stadium and in the parking lots. Molten lava spreads and hardens, creating new land and new valleys. Still shell thin, mixed intentions of game day plays, personal, team, fan base, and for the next season. The eruptions continue as the game commences. On to the third in a stadium on January 20th. Today, the date of a new head of the NFL and vice. When only 1% of federal defendants are acquitted and an estimated 5 to 10% are wrongly convicted, with a tarnished record of felony convictions, today is confirmation and inauguration day, or the first day of the new season. Preemptive pardons or political forgiveness for previous January 6th confirmation ahead of vote counting in the draft, and TikTok game clock forgiveness that could take out power to the headsets. More for people and goods and player and gear from the Detroit Republican Trump, now through inauguration. The US builds the team defense in the offseason, new structures and new locations with eyes on other teams like China. After discussions of pulling out of NFL operations and players and referee associations, and other teams discussed taking the seat in the international arena, out of the Paris Agreement, the UN, and on. Who's going to fill those seats? And where does the us stand? Talk of team trades arise, like the puck return from Canada across the field. And the us pays so little attention to the appointees from the list that the last season is largely unknown, where the next is tried and true, and the tale of two cities, the MLK season of two nations, the work of the white becomes the blue. The offense becomes that of the defense. What exactly does America do, if not to protect, to stand among the nations, and to win the Super Bowl? What does a benched and lost and down America do at the next season? Ask the players. America enjoys a healthy meal, takes a healthy run. America hits the gym, the dance floor, the fitness routine, the routine. America talks with the team, with no I. The Panama Canal protections from the Senate, like the game day play block, the homeland and home field of the free and the brave might also need to prepare for the away game. The unknown and new and volatile game, like 20 times nuclear forces never used before. NATO sends players to the line in preparation, and the us sends new game day balls and new interior gameplay executive orders. The Gulf of America and Mount McKinley, new names to new teams, or old names reverted. Are there to be males in football or females too? Or the old question of trans. Today they state an executive order of two sexes. When there is a continuum, but how shall two sexes be named? Deportation of fans, emergency orders, declaring a national emergency to ensure deportation, sending security, including military, to the entrance to ensure security at the field and increase the security during entry, charging illegal entrance and adding a wall around the stadium, no catch and release. The players and fans that shouldn't be there will actually be charged, and a wall is rebuilt, marking the fans from other teams who committed criminal acts in the game, like the visiting players and fans at halftime a couple weeks ago who escaped a mob and were arrested listening to the game in the car in the parking lots as terrorists. The cartels being marked as terrorists. Stopping honoring tickets to missed games from other stadiums. No more refugees. So where do fleeing international team players go? Stopping allowing family of the players into the game early to avoid the crowds. So no more asylum seekers. Concern for Swift. Stopping allowing season ticket holders to sell their seats to the game. No more birthright citizenship, albeit a constitutional pathway to citizenship. Enhancing security at the game and at the gate, and of tickets before going to your seats in the game. Every security guard checking tickets in the games, vetting with extra scrutiny the illegals. Increasing security to monitor the game in parking lots and kick out all tailgaters without tickets. Increasing ICE and CBP. Starting allowing players and fans to be banned. Restoring the death penalty for the highest crimes and those committed by those without tickets to the game. NFL finance economics are now techs with a $2 trillion cut. So while reducing inflation, the economists are paid less, as in the days of MLK. NFL water bottles have less fluoride. The players are losing teeth but keeping their thyroids, having health conditions but not losing excess weight. And we are here. Into the fourth for peace and funding. Israel and Gaza, remember, like Miami and Cleveland, was 8-8 versus 3-13 as expected. They had a 20-3 game a couple weeks ago. Game day is settled today, and neither are in the playoffs, but both teams are at rest. A ceasefire was agreed to and voted in Israel. The weapons production in the U.S. halted. Some hostages return home, and the war-torn countries can regenerate and rebuild for the new season, albeit a peaceful one. The People's March on D.C. and the Stadium of the Us to draw attention of the Us to all communities still marginalized from the Constitution formation of the NFL and the Declaration of Independence of Fair Play, Code of Conduct, and Rulebook of MLK head coach speech before the new season. The price and cost of the clean, fair gameplay. A knee, a stand, what can be forgiven, what methods are used, and what are the underlying intentions. Can all players call on their higher powers while still adhering to gameplay and held to actual rules or fair play? And if not, how do they make a stand? Remember, since 1925, the US has listened to a constitutional interpretation that stopped the US Supreme Court or Competition Committee from hearing every appeal. Why is there a game for the win, for entertainment, for happiness, for life? Funding from accessing natural resources on protected lands at home and within the stadium, a self-sufficient and slowly depleted limited resources of the US, like playing the plays using the same players the whole game. They work and they are right. But how will they take us through the game and on to the next season? A temporary fix to a long-term need. Why build a stadium and bring the fans for one season? For today, we stand as one team. And for tomorrow, we need a vision as one team. How can the game stay clean? A constant play review, refs, association rules and codes, structures and intentions, coaches, plays, and even fan base to keep the play in check. What conditions are livable? With hope despite fires, volcanoes, and ice. With MLK funds to reset and confirmation of a new team draft pick to clean the house, pardons and commuted sentences continuing. We're in the Us. I have a dream of peace and of hard work, of health and of happiness, where all hands of all shades of brown and pink and green are on deck. And here we have continued interceptions, volcanoes, continued molten lava, building new ground and safe zones in peace, and continued upheaval in power. Runs, passes, tackles, multiple attacks, takeovers, and continued threats on power throughout the world. And more from other teams noticing the reactionary play. Remember, every player is president of the locker room, and everyone is needed for the team. That is when, where, and how, and for the why is the time to step up. An inspiring speech by the coach, and we will be on the field where the roster is set, plays are mapped, and the game is time and reft. The coach and team's contracts are sworn in. The costs of debt and budget for prep limited. Remember, I am your host, Hope, yours truly, Alicia L'Esperance, or by French last name translation, The Hope. Follow the show on GSD Network, YouTube Live, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and future shows live on YouTube. Funding opportunities for Hope's Kickoff will be available on the following screen and social media for Hope's Kickoff in the weeks to come. Message to offer content and suggestions separately. Learn more about my political influences and collective vision for the nation as a U.S. presidential candidate poised to be the next people's president. Learn more on my webpage, thehopeforpresident.us. The funding opportunities for our campaign together will soon be available on my website and Facebook page, thehopeforpresident.us, where you can follow content, engage, and contact me directly at Gmail. And one more time. Where in the U.S. I have a dream of peace and hard work, of health and of happiness, where all hands of all shades of brown and pink and green are on deck. And here we have continued interceptions, volcanoes, continued molten lava building new ground and safe zones and peace, and continued upheaval in power, runs, passes, tackles, multiple attacks, takeovers, and continued threats on power throughout the world. Where every player is president of the locker room and everyone is needed for the team. Thank you for joining us here at GCDN Stadium for primetime football and politics on your political education show comparing American football to U.S. politics. And that is a wrap of your weekly dose of Hope's Kickoff. Tune in again or with on-demand recordings available around the clock. Enjoy the next game and see you next Sunday here at 7:30 at GCDN Stadium live on YouTube.